right, guys, welcome aboard. Welcome aboard to the virtual flight deck. My goodness, we have not been in here with this in a long time, and I could not be more excited for us to be back tonight and talk all things flight sim and some very special people on the panel here tonight. Let's go ahead and bring them up and welcome, of course, my partner in crime here, MickityyyMike. Mike, good evening. Good to have you on board. EJ Davis is here from the VATSIM community. EJ, welcome. And Major Mark making his first appearance, I think, here on the virtual flight deck. Mark, welcome in. Good to see you. You got audio? Let me see. Oh, wait a minute. I got to make sure I'm... Nope, there we go. Now I got you. I got to put that one up. There we go.
Yeah, how's it going?
Good. Welcome. EJ, how you doing, man? Good to see you.
Doing fantastic. Good to be back.
Yeah, it's good to have you back too. And of course, and certainly not least, the nearly famous and always incredible, mighty master of the airwaves himself, MickityyyMike. Mike, good to see you, my friend. Good to see you.
Appreciate you guys being here, man.
Yeah, we're gonna have a good night. We're gonna get into some topics. I want to say hello to everybody in the chat already. Dewan Varisti is here. Kelmo is here. Andrew, welcome. Maestro, Kevin 747, hello and welcome, guys. Welcome to the channel. If you haven't been on the Captain Jack channel before, want to welcome you in here. And just a great community, great group of guys. We're going to talk flight sim tonight. Mike, we decided that we were going to start by talking about all the new aircraft that are out. My goodness, you want to tell us what you think about some of the new aircraft that are out right now.
Oh yeah, man, it's been an incredible time for the flight sim community. I think right now is a very pivotal moment for flight simmers such as myself, EJ, everybody that's here when it comes to the flight sim in and of itself, man. It just with everything that's coming out is just incredible, man. You know, it's been a lot of years of waiting and questioning what's going to be, coming to the market and to the community and this, that, and third. But now that we're actually starting to see this stuff, it's starting to become a little bit more understanding of like, holy crap, we're actually this is kind of the future of flight sim now, right? So it's been absolutely insane, man. I've actually had the chance and the privilege to be an early access content creator for some of these airplanes and have showcased them to the community prior to their release. Such as the iFly Max 8. I think that was one of the most highly anticipated airplanes that the flight sim community has wanted for such a long time. And I think iFly did a phenomenal job with that airplane. They actually just released version 1 of the airplane today. So it is completely out in its full release version. Over 130 different things were updated on the airplane between the release candidate that was released in the early alpha access a couple of weeks ago or a few weeks ago to what it is now. They've updated over 130 different issues with the airplane and have released it to version 1.0 as of today. And then obviously Phoenix with the Sharklets to 320 and a 321. We had the fly-by-wire 380. That was an absolute bombshell that fly-by-wire dropped on the community. And then just a plethora of other things, man. It's just absolutely incredible. I've been following Flight Effects. For those of you that are not familiar with Flight Effects, they're in the process of developing a Challenger private jet and a Cessna Citation X C750, if you would. So some private jets are coming to the sim as well here soon. Any Builds just did or Microsoft, I should say, just did a 2024 access release, if you would, or not. I'm sorry, a stream to show all the aircrafts that they have been working on alongside with Any Builds. For the release of Microsoft 2024, which is 4 days away, man. We got 4 days until the next installment of this simulator.
Yeah.
So it's just been an awesome time to be a flight simmer, man. I'm super excited for the future and what's to hold, especially on the YouTube side. It's going to be awesome content to be able to provide to you guys and be able to fly these aircraft and stretch the legs of them, as I like to say. So got a lot to talk about, man. A lot of airplanes have come out since the last time we did this podcast. So, and obviously with myself and Major Mark and a couple of guys in the chat here with Mastro and Kevin 47, we were all busy down in California at WorldFlight last week, raising money for the St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital for the kids, as we like to say it.
Absolutely.
It's just been an awesome time. So I'm really looking forward to today's discussion.
Yep. Mike, let's talk about WorldFlight for just a minute. And of course, Major Mark joins us here. He was instrumental in all that. How much money did you guys end up raising? How did the community respond for St. Jude's?
They did phenomenal, man. It was an absolutely awesome event. Granted, I wasn't able to participate in the full event. I was only able to be there for 4 days due to work. So, but in the time that I was there, I mean, even when Mark and I flew 2 legs together, two of the longest legs of the event, we flew Mexico City, Vegas, Honolulu. So me and Mark were in the cockpit for about 10 hours together. With ground stops and stuff like that. And I think in that stream alone, in our 2 flights alone, I think we raised a little under $1,500 in just that one portion of flight. So I think the grand total was just a little over 16,000, just under 17. I think the nice. $16,800 was about where we ended off, and our goal was 15. So we smashed our goal by almost $2,000. So it was absolutely insane, man.
That was wonderful. Mark, tell us a little bit about your participation, maybe some of the crew that you had there. We had some other simmers, CST Gaming. By the way, CST and Owls could not be here tonight. Owls is streaming at the moment, so make sure you drop in on his stream tonight and leave that like if you would. But hang out with us here. We're going to have a good discussion. Mark, tell us about some of the crew, some of the guys participating. Tell me about the equipment setup too. It looked pretty cool on screen. Where was it? How did it go? Tell us what you got.
Yeah, so first off, big shout out goes out to Midnight Maverick 737.
Yes.
Without him, none of that would have been possible. So this year, unlike previous WorldFlight years, we've actually been in a actual level D non-motion 737.
Wow.
However, the previous owner, due to some unforeseen issues, he sold his sim. So with the help of Midnight Mav, we got some sponsorship. So the setup that we had was pretty much 2 of the next level racing chairs. One that we did do a raffle for. Gotta say raffle, not giveaway.
Raffle, yeah.
But we did a raffle for. The co-pilot's chair was the raffle.
Nice.
And we pretty much set it up with some 55-inch monitors, a couple of desktop 32-inch screens, and we had all the Thrustmaster hardware for rotor pedals, throttles, and things of that nature. So that was kind of the typical setup, and then we had the backdrop of the actual Boeing 777 cockpit in the background for aesthetics. So all in all, it was a great setup. That whole thing was inside of Midnight Mav's garage, by the way. Poor Tesla had to sit outside for a whole week, but it was all good. It was for a good cause. But other than that, like Mike said, we raised about a little over $16,000. All went straight to St. Jude for a worthy cause. Kind of a home point for me because I was born and raised in Memphis, so I always drove back and forth past St. Jude. So I got to go over there multiple times to see some of the kids there and the awesome work that they did. But some of the crew we had, as everybody knows, Captain Canada, CST Gaming. We had Dan Barry in the background doing all our technical edits. We had who else did we have?
With Flyboy,
Mopar Dude.
Yeah, Kevin 47, Nabil Games was there. Yeah,
Nabil Games, and he actually flew all the way from London, England, to be with us. So big shout out to him. All this was all our travel was out of our own pockets. So none of the money that was raised paid for any team members' travel, living, lodging, none of that. So for him to travel all the way from England, big shout out to him. If you hadn't checked him out, I would say check out Nabil Games. He does some awesome content as well. But we had about 6 members that couldn't make with us this year. Jeff Fabiano, Silveron, they both flew a couple of legs with us during the North American sector. So they weren't there in person, but they did still support the team. They did fly a couple of legs. Paul F. and Mr. Liam, he's also a real war pilot now. He just got hired on, so shout out to him as well. But all in all, great event. We actually kept ahead of the pack. Actually, when me and Mike flew, we ended up getting us. We got in so early, we got us about an hour we were able to take a little nap because that was like wee hours of the morning for us. So we stayed with the pack this year, and like we always want to do. But it was a great event all in all.
Yeah, it sure was. I watched many hours, got to see you guys in there and say hello to you during the flight too, and just a tremendous event. I really hope that this is something that can happen, if not every year, maybe even several times a year. St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital guys, they will take donations anytime. Always keep in mind that you can donate to them at any time, and it's one of the most worthwhile causes that you would want to have the opportunity to bless someone else with. My wife and I have been long time, many years supporters of St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital in Memphis. And Mark, you know, I'm a Chattanooga boy. I originally grew up in Chattanooga, not that not that far back down the Tennessee River, the other side there, but you'd have to go away to get there. Let's see, CJ Flies is in the chat. Maestro is saying definitely an awesome time. So glad to be a part of an awesome team. Yeah, what a great blessing. I tell you what, maybe one day I can come help y'all out. I want to be behind the scenes. I'll let y'all do the nice smooth landing.
Oh yeah, man.
We'll get you out there next year.
Yeah, 100%, man. And I'll tell you, like, and just to give a shout out to all the crews that participated in this event, you know, the Qantas crew, I believe they flew the 747. They have a full level D74 sim that they were flying on. We had the A330 team from Europe. There's so many teams that are doing World Flight, not just Wings for Hope, but you know, you have the Simfest, you have Cali crew, you have all these guys that Cali crew, unfortunately they didn't participate this year, but due to some sim issues. But you know, all the crews around the world, you know, they do it for the same thing. You know, they're doing this for a good cause, and 100% of the proceeds go directly back to the cause that they are taking donations for. So, you know, for me, this was my first year being able to do something like this and be able to participate in an event like this. And it was a truly humbling experience for me. And when I say humbling, people ask me why I say humbling, but I say that in a very, very good way, because it kind of gives you a perspective on, you know, how much of an impact you can make onto somebody else's life by just doing what you love, right? So, I mean, me and Mark, we had a hell of a time in that cockpit. I think that was a part of one of my favorite days at the event, was flying with Mark, because I think just by the end of the flight over to Honolulu, we were so tired that we were just acting buffoons in that cockpit. Yeah. It was a ton of fun. We were going Southern Baptist Church, talking gospel. We got Skippy in the cockpit taking shots in the background. Like, it was a great time. And I'll tell you, all the guys, all the work that went into this, man. I mean, Mav literally had months to set up for this, and this is usually something that, you know, you prep for. You know, you bring people out and you practice in the sim and all that kind of stuff, so they get a little bit. All the guys that came down for this, it's their first time flying in this makeshift sim that Mav put together, and it was a phenomenal sim, man. One of the best I've ever flown in. And with what we were doing for St. Jude, man, it's just an awesome cause, you know, to be able to raise money to potentially help a kid that was born with something that, you know, is out of their control, or fighting something that they didn't ask for, you know. To be able to support that kind of cause and be able to provide at least some sort of an impact on St. Jude and what they can do for their research and what they're doing over there in that facility is just absolutely phenomenal, man. So a huge shout out to Midnight Maverick, man. He had such little time to get this set and to have as successful as an event as we did. It's definitely, he's got a lot of aspirations and a lot of dreams for Wings for Hope and what we can turn this into, and potentially get this into being a multi-year thing, you know, where we're doing it twice a year versus once a year. You know, every 6 months we go out and do this. So we'll definitely see how it goes. But it was a phenomenal experience, man. It was one of the most humbling experiences. I'll tell you, it is so lack of a better term, it is an exhausting process. It is an exhausting process. I was on the night shift with Mark and CST, and I flew with Mustafa as well, another content creator over on Twitch. Fly with Fred, another awesome guy. He's also a VATSIM member. He controls out in the Hong Kong airspace and down in LA as well. So it is exhausting. I will tell you, it was wake up, go to the sim, eat, go to the sim, go back, sleep, go back to the sim. It was 4 days of just nonstop, man. So, but a huge shout out to VATSIM as well for providing us with the coverage for ATC throughout the sectors as well.
Yep, and speaking of which, Mr. EJ Davis is here from the aforementioned VATSIM. EJ, I'm going to kind of shift gears a little bit here, but yeah, tell the guys at VATSIM we appreciate all of their participation with everything that went on during the World Flight, and of course, just in everyday simming. Tell us some of the things that is coming up in VATSIM, something you'd like to let the community know about here.
Yeah. Well, first of all, we were really excited to be part of World Flight, just on the different end of it. The Caribbean team, which I particularly worked with for World Flight, we had a little bit of nervousness when we saw the destinations and the times for it. It always is when we're trying to figure out who we can get as controllers for that. And we ended up having one or two gentlemen who decided that they were just going to pull all-nighters, and they hopped from the Santo Domingo area over to Curacao because they're ready to control both of them. And so they wanted to keep the fun going. So afterwards, they were tired. I didn't speak to them about 24 hours after that event, but when they finally came back to, they were saying how wonderful it was and how much fun they had. The people who participate in World Flight are individuals who tend to really understand VATSIM, and so it's a pleasure to control them, pleasure to be a part of it, and then also for the cause. So the team is always excited when they get these events, and I promise you that's very rare when it comes to events that are outside of the normal controlling hours. Very, very common for air traffic controllers to completely deny, no, we're not going to be there at these times, and that's why World Flight has the ability to come in and control positions with VETS with the division's approval. But in our case, we were just really excited to have it for this particular cause, for these particular group of folks. So that was great from the air traffic controller side. In talking about future events, there's always something around the corner. I was actually working on Cross the Land right before this call, and Cross the Land is going to be the largest event that takes place outside of Cross the Pond for the Western Hemisphere. And this year it'll be a little bit different, or I should say this particular event, because VAT USA and VAT Canada, due to some difficulties with scheduling, they're not going to participate. So we'll start across the land from Mexico and the Caribbean, and we're going to head south. And this will be really, really interesting because it gives us the opportunity to use really far away destinations that we haven't used before, like Buenos Aires, down there in Argentina, as well as some other spots in Brazil and in Ecuador, not Ecuador, Chile, and there was another one that was unusual that we're going to get the opportunity to fly with. So they're all very excited about that. It'll be an opportunity to see what we can do without VAT USA and VAT Can's participation, but they'll be back in February and March. So outside of that, the VATSIM community is really, really excited about what's going to happen here in the next few days with FS 2024. We saw a huge, huge influx of traffic with the A380. There's been some difficulties around that, and making sure that people can figure out how to fly that aircraft.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah. By the way, on
Oh,
the supervisor side, we've seen some interesting things on, like, these planes. They're not rated to fly for these airports. By the way, folks, you can fly the A380 into certain airports even if they don't have an A380 gate. The stipulation there will be, does it slow down operations of the airport? So if you're flying into Sydney at 2 o'clock in the morning and nobody's on, you'll be fine. Or I shouldn't say Sydney, an airport in Australia that doesn't have support for an A380 but is large enough to land it, you should be okay. But when you start disrupting the flow of traffic at an airport, that's when a supervisor might get involved. So, lots of fun things coming out with that one. I can't wait to see what happens with FS 2024. We'll have new aircraft as well, and hopefully everybody will be on their best behavior.
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, Al's just stopped into the chat. Hello, Al's. Dominic is here. Good to see you, our friend there. Al's is live streaming. We'll have to I'll try to pull that up on a monitor here just in a couple of moments. EJ, a little bit later, I want to touch on some VATSIM rules and some of the things. For instance, will VATSIM be absolutely requiring everybody to have Navigraph subscriptions and charts? I'm curious about that. So there's some stuff we'll talk about there. But Mike, let's go ahead and dive into aircraft and tell us what's your favorite new aircraft. There's so many to start with. I don't know whether the Max is going to be my favorite. I still love the 777. I had bought the just the plain garden variety 737-800 from PMDG. So let's get into the new aircraft. Let's see in the chat, what's your favorite new aircraft that's come out here in the past few months? So let us know. But Mike, go ahead and take it, and let's get into that.
Well, had you asked me this question a week ago, I had said the Max, 100%. iFly did an absolutely phenomenal job with this airplane. And there were some logistical things that a lot of people disagreed with, but I didn't. You know, a lot of people disagreed with the fact that they released it to content creators as early as they did, because we had the airplane for about a week straight before it got access to the public.
Yeah.
And a lot of people weren't happy about that because they were just sick and tired of watching people stream it versus not having it. And what a lot of people did not understand about what iFly was doing is in the background in their Discord server, if you were early access to the Max, we weren't just showcasing the airplane to the community. We are also reporting back to iFly with bugs and issues that we had noticed, and telling them things that might potentially be broken, what might need to be worked on, this, that, the third, flight model wise, So there was a lot going on in the background that we were reporting to iFly, which they were working consistently on. I think for about a week straight, one of the devs was working on figuring out why the PFDs and the MFDs were lagging as much as they were in high fidelity sceneries and CPU intensive areas of the world. So iFly was working their ass off in the background on that airplane while we were flying and reporting back to them. But I will say, I had flown Boeing for probably about a month straight with between the iFly Max 8 and going to World Flight and flying the 777 in that cockpit, so on and so forth, that my Airbus skills got a little rusty, right? So I hopped back into the Phoenix this week after the Sharklet update. And I have to say, Phoenix has done a phenomenal job with even furthering the development of that product, because the aircraft just feels so good to fly, man. Landing it feels phenomenal. Taking off feels awesome. The ground effect feels great. The tax, they edited the ground handling as well, so you actually need to put a lot of tiller movement in order to move the aircraft right and left. It's not just minimal amount anymore. It's not sensitive anymore. So, you know, if I were to talk about new aircraft that have just released for the sim, the Max is definitely up there for me. But if we're talking about recently updated airplanes and planes that are seeing new features and new engines, because a lot of people don't realize on the Phoenix is they replaced one of the CFM engines on the Phoenix for a more powerful version of the CFM. I believe it's on the 321 if I'm not mistaken, but I could be wrong. And then the Sharklets come in and all that kind of stuff. Owls was actually finally able to do proper Delta routing, because if you talk to him, that's all he's going to talk about.
He's
the Max is definitely up there.
He's threatening to come in the chat. So.
Yeah. The Max is definitely up there for me. iFly did a phenomenal job with that airplane. The animations are incredible, and I think, in my personal opinion, the best part of that airplane isn't even how it flies. It's not how it looks. It's not the animations. It is the sounds. Boris did a phenomenal job on the sound pack to that airplane. The startup sounds of that airplane, the takeoff sounds, landing, the bumps that you hear going over lights and brakes, sounding like the sounds of the whir of the brakes when you're braking over the runway or when you're turning onto the runway going over that displaced threshold where it's kind of riveted a little bit. It's incredible, man. So I definitely put the Max 8 up there for me. The 380, I have flown it a few times. I think the 380 has a lot of potential. I just don't personally believe it is up there in my favorites right now, because it does have a lot of issues that need to be worked on. And I respect Fly-by-Wire for being transparent about that when they said this is pre-alpha release. So they said you're going to expect to see some issues. I mean, the aircraft is climbing at 5,500 feet per minute up to cruise, which an A380, that's not accurate, not one bit, right? So, yeah, I think the 380 is fun. It's just performance-wise is the biggest issue with that airplane for me right now. The performance is very, very lackluster, to say the least. And with the system that I have, you know, I shouldn't be having issues with that. But they were very transparent about it. They said you're going to have some performance issues. It's not optimized at all. So frame rate was a big issue with that airplane. And then what else did we get? I think the Avro RJ came out. The Avro RJ, the updated avionics RJ came out. I haven't flown it yet, but I've heard it's really, really good. But up and coming, and 2024 right around the corner. If you guys watch Microsoft stream on Twitch with the aircrafts that they revealed and went over, man, that Anybuilds 330, the default airplane that's going to come with the Aviators edition of the simulator, it looks phenomenal, like pay-work quality, in my opinion. The same with the 321 Neo that's coming as well. They went over the Airbus. What is that military model, Mark? The Airbus
A400 Mike.
A400 Mike, yeah, the A400 Mike. It's a military version prop Airbus that has incredible aerodynamics and can fly at aerodynamically and turn fast and like a fighter jet, if you would. The Beluga, the 330 Beluga is coming as well, so that's going to be a cool thing. A lot more long haul cargo ops you can do in that thing. So It's just a great time to be a flight simmer right now, man. I'm really looking forward to it. But to answer your question, yes, the iFly Max 8 is definitely one of my favorite new aircrafts that have released over the last couple of months.
Yeah, yeah, I would agree. I've flown it a couple of times in my stream and really enjoyed it, and it looks and sounds phenomenal. Mark, what about you? All the new aircraft out. What are you liking to fly these days?
Right now, I'm loving the A321. That's kind of my go-to right now, especially with the Sharklets. I'm kind of like Owls. If it ain't Delta, I ain't flying. So, uh, actually,
yeah, your American buddy up there is
I know he's shaking his head. I'm sorry. I got on the A350 headed out to Vegas. I'm not to Vegas to LA for World Flight. So I got on that bad boy. Didn't get in the cockpit. Got right to the front door, and they was like, "Oh, we got a quick turn. You can't come in." So I've been really digging the Airbus. The Max is also a good one out there that I've been flying. I did two sectors in the A380, so I hadn't put it through its paces yet. But like Mike said, there are a couple of bugs to work out with. Overall, it flies really good. Um, so that's kind of what I've been rocking here since at least post World Flight is I've been getting up on my A321 skills, A320 skills here.
Yeah, yeah. Well, now I've gone out. Well, let me ask you first, EJ. What about you? Your favorite out of the new bunch of aircraft that have come out?
I have to say that the iFly 737-800 is the one that I'm spending the most time in, and it's nice to finally have the Max. I have to say that I'd give it to the most impressive being fly-by-wire, though, mainly because you think about the amount of investment of time and resources it takes, and it's very obvious to see where iFly and Phoenix get the funds and the ability to do so. My hat just goes off to the team there at Fly-by-Wire to be able to do that. We haven't had anything like that in MSFS, so I don't know if they, borrowed from other resources and to be able to complete that project. But it was a tremendous undertaking, something that really, really impresses me that they committed to releasing as freeware and has done so well.
Yeah.
The beauty of that too is that unlike other freeware developers who like finish off a plane and move on to the next project and never update it, every time I open the fly-by-wire updater, it's like there's something new for the A380. So that's really exciting to see that commitment, that level of detail. As an American Airlines guy, I don't get to fly too often. So
don't worry, there's a livery for American on the 380 if you want some.
I saw that. But I'm really impressed with the 737 Max 8, and I've been spending a lot of time in that. So if we're going back a little bit more, I would say that the 777 has been the release of 2024. I think that's been the most exciting for me and the one that I've been flying the most. Matter of fact, I'm flying it right now. But in the just newer bunch, the 737 is definitely going to be it.
I'm just to let you guys know, we were talking about this a little bit before the stream started, but I brought out the ATR Highline. They've done a new update in the ATR, and I've wanted to try to learn how to fly this airplane, so I'm kind of working on that a little bit. And I too think it's very positive that that they let out the A380, even in its developmental form, and to be free, I think is pretty incredible. And I've watched you guys fly it, and you look like you've been flying it for years. So, hats off to you.
Yeah, I got to tell you, man, when Fly-by-Wire made the announcement that they were going to release the aircraft in its pre-alpha state and made the list of the issues that they were going to have, that's why I didn't have an issue streaming it. I went in with the mindset saying this is not going to be a perfect project by no means. So, but for what that aircraft is, for the fact that I don't have to pay a dime for it, is unbelievable, And the last stream that I did in the 380, I flew from Hong Kong to Seoul in South Korea in the Asiana colors, one of my favorite liveries ever. I actually had to do a go around of that airplane due to an aircraft spawning in and holding on the runway without making calls. But that's nonetheless, that's besides the point. So I actually had to fly a proper go around in the airplane, and I was concerned at first. So, I set thrust and I pulled back on the stick. We went airborne. I retracted flaps 2 immediately, and the aircraft flew the go around and the hold without issue. Right. And that's something that we see payware developers having issues modeling. Right. So the fact that fly-by-wire was able to bring that into an aircraft in a project such as the A380 that can carry almost 500 passengers, 500. Imagine how long it takes you to load in GSX. It's incredibly long. To be able to fly a proper go around without any deviation from the course and fly the established hold on the ILS chart was incredible to me. That's what sold the airplane for me. I was like, this airplane's got a ton of potential. They optimize it. I'm happy with the state that it's in. All they have to do is optimize the airplane. Because the first flight that I did in it was a 7-hour leg. I did Singapore to Sydney in that airplane. Wow. With Qantas. It was a long one. It was a fun stream though, very, very fun stream. And it operated beautifully with the exception of the performance. That's my only gripe with the airplane is the performance in game. So such as the climb performance is a bit exaggerated. And frame rate wise, it's a very CPU intensive airplane. So if you have a low end system, unfortunately right now the 380 is not going to be your best friend. I would put the 380 up there with one of my favorites. I would, even with the issues that it has. I think fly-by-wire's transparency is what made me be able to make that decision and throw it up there. Because I do agree with EJ. The fact that it's free and the level of development they've been developing this airplane, what, 4 years, EJ? Correct me if I'm wrong. About 4 years. They showcased it at the expo. And it's just the fact that we have something of that sheer size. Like, even in the sim, you're taxiing the 380, right? I'm taxiing the 380 down the runway. I look behind me and there's a 320. The sheer size of that freaking airplane is incredible. Yeah. So you kind of feel like the big man on campus when you're taxiing that airplane around a field. It's fun. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think I was watching one of your streams. I can't remember who it was now, but there was an A380, and then over there was a 737, and it's like, night and day difference. Looks like a Cessna next to a giant. Want to say hello to Yoham Breadmasters in the chat. Let's see. Yoham said Avro is for sure PMDG level. I'd say Phoenix probably not from Yoham there. Yoham, you said A400M can fly at 0.72 Mach, or that Kevin 47 said that crazy for a prop-driven aircraft, and the A400M. Now, I'm not familiar with that one. What is that one?
I'll let Mark dive into that, being he's in the military. That's
yeah, Mark, tell us about it.
So that's the I guess that's the European version of a C-130.
Okay.
For all intents and purposes, don't know too much about it, but it's turboprop driven like a C-130. It's kind of the competitor, but you see it more in the European armed forces than you don't see it in the U.S. Obviously, Lockheed's got that pretty tied up, but it's a pretty agile plane. I think there's a 2-engine variant of it that the Brazilian Air Force flies as well. Pretty agile aircraft, low altitude drops, and can drop soldiers, troops off, airborne operations, all that good stuff.
Very good. Very good. All right. Well, Mike, with all these new airplanes that are out, do we see anything else in the future? The full release version, how to update? I was going to ask you about that, but I forgot what airplane I was going to ask that about.
The iFly?
Yeah, the iFly. Yeah.
All you have to do is go into your client. iFly has released a full how-to on how to go to your release kit or your full version release, if you would. Unfortunately, due to the platform that iFly is on right now with the update to the aircraft and how the aircraft is being updated throughout the files, they're still very much so on a very, very old platform. So you have to go in and manually uninstall things and remove files from your community folder. And then all you have to do is go into your iFly manager and click update. And it'll update the airplane and it'll reinstall all the files that need to be reinstalled from the update itself. So it's a very simple update. The only thing that iFly said is some liveries might not work properly initially because the livery creators and the developer of the aircraft do not work hand in hand with one another. It's kind of like they're kind of playing catch up, the livery creators are. So once iFly drops the release, then the creators can go back into the aircraft and update their liveries as needed. So that's probably going to only thing that you see. But if you're in Flight One Software's Discord, there were over 130 different things updated with that airplane. So they were hard at work for the last few weeks getting this airplane to its full release version.
So well worth the effort to go ahead and make that update.
Oh yeah, and for what, it was a $65 airplane. I mean, yeah, you can't go wrong.
Yeah, very good, very good. Let's see. Anything else you guys want to cover on that? Any questions in the chat? Would be glad to entertain those. Would love to have you smash that thumbs up button for me, guys, here. That would be much appreciated. Anything else you want to cover on the all the new aircraft that's out?
Which one do you guys think is going to be next?
350.
Okay.
Uh,
That's what I'd say too.
No,
Time out. Time out.
Yeah, I think the 777 cargo is
Yeah.
gonna be next, but I think
Yeah.
I think that between that one and maybe the 350, those will probably be the next two that you see payware
Yeah.
come out.
Yeah, those are probably going to be the next two major projects that we see. And I've been kind of holding it off. I haven't said anything about it, but you know, we'll say it here. I am proud to announce that I have officially been accepted into PMDG's press release team. So
Nice.
when the 777 freighter releases, I should be getting a copy of that airplane a day or two early to showcase to you guys. I've been emailing back and forth with Matisse from PMDG about it and all that kind of stuff. And I wouldn't say that I'm sponsored by PMDG. I don't think that's the case at all, but I think they're just bringing content creators onto their press team to kind of showcase what's coming, because the 777 freighter, I think, is more anticipated than the 200 variant, in my opinion, which I disagree with personally. I'm a 200 fan, but when it comes down to it, it's for where I'm at on YouTube, for the level of a developer like PMDG to, you know, accept me onto that team it's very humbling. So I'm excited to see it. I'm excited to fly some cargo routes with it, you know, into Memphis with the 777 freighter, you know, Anchorage, so on and so forth. We're not going into Juneau. That's not happening. But
I was there for that stream. That was a fun one.
yes. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's gonna be a lot of fun. There are a lot of cargo operators out there that are around the world that I was unaware of that operate the aircraft. So there's going to be a lot of airports that I've never flown into that are going to be opening up the spectrum of different routes I can fly. So
Mike, that was an entertaining stream. I got to tell you, that was an entertaining stream.
Very fun. 'Cause I don't know how you didn't see the runway and Six of us did.
Yeah.
That's
hey,
great.
man. Hey, you look at Owl's flight track on Volanta. He didn't even see the runway, and he just flew a figure eight around the airport until he flew it. And I can't say that would have been a legal landing had I tried it. So
Yeah.
That's
I
great.
think, I think also too I know they're not payware, but the Anybills 330 that's actually going to be released with the sim is another one that I'm looking forward to. That was the Beluga, the 321 LR.
But to be fair, and here's how I'll put it: the reason why I would consider these aircraft, quote unquote, heavy quotations, payware, is because Microsoft has contracted Anybuilds to make these airplanes. So Anybuilds is being paid by Microsoft to develop these aircraft, right? Which is why, you know, everybody was astonished by the price of the Aviators edition of the simulator. But look at what you're getting, right? So you're going to be getting high fidelity or medium to high fidelity aircraft default with the sim. And what Microsoft and Anybuilds was doing with that aircraft on their preview stream when they were previewing the aircrafts, the 330 looks phenomenal. It looks there was a real world 330 350 pilot sitting in the stream as well, explaining things about the airplane and what's been modeled and what hasn't been. The 330 is a very unique airplane. Like in the 320 321, you look behind you, you just see panels and panels and panels of circuit breakers. 330 doesn't have a single circuit breaker in its cockpit, because Airbus was like, okay, too many pilots are disabling shit. We're just going to make it to where we don't have circuit breakers anymore. And they did that. So that was showcased in the 330 initially. And a lot of the systems, super, super cool, man. So I'm definitely, that is my most anticipated airplane. Default with the sim is the 330.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, guys, let's move on to another topic here. And this one might be a little controversial, kind of like who you voted for president, maybe. But let's talk about what's going on in the community at the moment between BM World and AmSim. I know that evidently something happened that, well, Mike, I'll just let you comment on it to start with, and then EJ and Mark will see what your thoughts are. Mark and I were talking about it just a little bit beforehand, but what's going on? Evidently, kind of some stuff we really don't want to hear about in the flight simulator community.
Well, you know, it's unfortunate that we have to see this, because multiple developers have alleged that BM World is guilty of piracy. And the flight sim world has kind of seen a little bit of controversy between this developer and other developers that don't necessarily need to be named, but you would see one developer saying, "Hey, I'm developing this airport. This airport's currently in development, this, that, the third," and then all of a sudden, VMworld and AmSim say, "Hey, we released this airport." So it's kind of a wishy-washy kind of thing. Initially, it kind of came as a competitive thing, but there, I guess, are some issues with a certain member that I will remain unnamed at this point, that has been banned from many, many development companies, that at one point in time was pirating files. So right now, it's all allegations. It's not necessarily been proven just as of yet, because all it is hearsay between one member and another. Very similar to the Zebo and Walter White issue back in the X-Plane days with the Max that released for the X-Plane. So it's kind of an up in the air issue with this. Unfortunately, VMworld and AmSim, as good as their products, I'm an owner of many of their products. I own their San Diego, Phoenix, and a plethora of others. There are a lot of developers that have come up and spoken against them and said we are removing their products from our store until this is settled. So we're kind of in that space right now to where we have to say, as a content creator, it's like, do I fly into this airport? Because if I fly into this airport, I'm technically showing support for a company that's allegedly guilty of piracy. But at the same time, I'm a customer that has purchased this airport, so I should be able to, right? So there's a long article that was written about it on FS Elite that Owl shared with me when he initially was talking to me about the, because I was unaware of it. This all came up while I was at WorldFlight. Was I at WorldFlight? I don't remember if I was at WorldFlight. When was this?
I think it started at WorldFlight.
Yeah. So it's frustrating because this shit shouldn't be happening. When it comes down to scenery developers, one person in particular that I will say that I respect a lot, when it comes, he gets a lot of heat for it, is Vertical Sim. Vertical Sim doesn't touch other airports that have already been developed. If the airport that has been developed is of quality, right? And Vertical Sim made a very, very, very big statement as to why he has redacted himself from VMworld and AmSim due to the issues of the piracy and this, that, the third. So it's unfortunate because it makes it seem like it's kind of a money grab kind of thing, if you would. It's like, oh, this person's doing this airport. Hey, let me see what I can do to get the airport out quicker. And now we saw that with San Francisco. We saw it with Dulles, so on and so forth. So, I don't really have too much knowledge on the issue as of right now as to why the things are happening. I'd have to go back into the article and get a little bit more knowledge into the situation, but it basically said that they learned about the incident around 4 years ago, and they said they reviewed details and conclude that the situation resolved between the parties 4 years ago, but it has then since come up again in reference to piracy. And chat, I'm going to preface to you guys because I get this in my chat all the time. Piracy is piracy, whether you pay for something or it's free, right? Piracy, the definition is using files that do not belong to you and claiming that they are yours. That is piracy. If you release stuff that is not yours and you download it, such as, perfect example, someone released Fly-by-Wire. When Fly-by-Wire made their initial announcement that the 380 came in, within hours, a cracked version of the airplane was out to download. Within hours, right? And people were saying, well, it's free. It's not really piracy. I was like, no, that is not true. That is not true. Free or not, it is still piracy. It is still against the law to be doing this. You are using someone else's work that is not released. It is not, you do not have permission to be doing this. That is the definition of piracy by law. So it's unfortunate. It's really unfortunate because VMworld and AmSim did great work, and for a level of that developer to be having these types of allegations against their name and their reputation being thrown in the mud because of their actions, it's unfortunate. So, I'll let someone else comment on it, that being they might have a little bit more knowledge than I do. But that's just where I see it,
Yeah, Mark, what do you think? By the way, I did post a link to that article in the chat there, and looks like we have a bit of a lively discussion going on in the chat about some things in regard to this particular topic. Mark, what do you think?
Yes, it's unfortunate that we still have that because I know as long as I've been in the flight sim community, I think the last big drama we had was with FS Labs when they were trying to find out who was pirating their stuff, and they had issues back in I believe it was FSX when they
Yeah,
when
the
they
malware issue with FSX
yeah.
and P3D. Yeah.
And you know, it seems like it comes and goes in little, I mean, in little patterns here. But it's kind of unfortunate of the drama if they found it resolved then and it's still going on now. You know, that's an issue. But from a flight simmer perspective, I think the stance that some of the developers have taken is kind of the right stance until the facts can be laid out. You know, everybody's proven innocent until found guilty. I know there's a lot of stuff out there right now, but until we can get to the bottom of this, I kind of agree with what's going on in the community. But I mean, the pattern is there to show, like with San Francisco, Flightbeam had already announced that years ago. It was almost ready, and then a week before theirs dropped, you saw the BMAMC World San Francisco drop, and it dropped. It was incomplete. You know, they wanted to do interiors. They didn't do the interiors because from a buyer's perspective, they wanted to be the first one to drop because they wanted the benefit and the money up front. Some people held out and waited on Flybeam. Some people ended up buying both. But at the end of the day, I don't condone piracy. And again, you pick what you want. Just like people love Bredock, people love Captain Sim. If you love it, you'll support it. I think one of the best quotes I hear out there is "Talk with your wallet." So
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think I kind of leave it right there.
Yeah.
And actually, as I'm reading through this article, there was an update on this issue yesterday, to where the developer BM World has released a statement on this issue, and there are claims that there was an underage person related to one of the developers on a computer sharing files with a friend, and that's how the files got leaked.
Mhm.
BM World is claiming that they have never pirated anything, and there is no piracy that has been done within their company, and that he is innocent of these crimes and the allegations of piracy. So as of right now, the situation is really up in the air. It's very much so a he said she said kind of thing, to where one person is saying this and the owner is saying, well, I didn't do it, this is what happened and why the files were leaked. And from a statement from Umberto, he said, I'd like to pay attention to the fact that I'm being charged with accusations that defame my honor and dignity. I'm facing serious charges for a crime that I did not commit, and these actions are illegal. No one has the right to accuse a person without evidence, and an appeal to the court. This is against the law. Proof of guilt must occur with participation of competent authorities. So BM World is very much on a stance saying that these allegations are not true. And there was an issue well back in the day about someone who was underage releasing files that they shouldn't have been releasing on their family member's computer or whatever it might have been. So it's, as a flight simmer, as a customer, as a consumer, it's confusing to say the least.
Yeah, I tell you, it's sad that it's kind of the world we live in some days. EJ, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, and I think my thoughts might be a little bit on the other side here, because as I understand, and maybe I need to read the article in full to make sure that I haven't missed any details, but as I understand, the accusation is that there was piracy of their products. They did not pirate materials and then put it into their development. Their development was done separately. So I wonder why something that would have happened 4 years ago is coming back into the light. It seems as if BM World has definitely 100% tried to release things right before their competitors, which might be a bad business practice, but I'll say Captain Sim does the same thing to PMDG. I just think that what we might be seeing is the developers a little bit salty at BM World, and then deciding that, you know what, I'm tired of this. We've held on to this for a while, and it's now time to release it and say our piece on it. And I think that the third parties that are around, like Any Builds and everybody else who has kind of removed themselves from the situation and just said, "Hey, we're not going to put VMworld stuff on our platform for now." That makes sense. They're waiting to kind of understand where this goes. But in terms of the core issue, I think there needs to be a lot more research done on it, and I think that there seems to be a very poor way for these developers to go and attack VMworld at the moment. It seems like it is far more than the fact that piracy occurred in the past, because all of those products, with or without VMworld's involvement, got pirated. I think that there is something more of a personal vendetta against them happening, and we'll have to see how it clears up what is made of everything.
Yeah.
But I think at the moment, as somebody said in the chat, I feel like maybe we need to give them a little bit of benefit of the doubt here and fully understand what's going on before we draw lines in the sand. And right now, I as somebody who's in business myself, and I understand the core importance of, hey, I got there first. I don't think that's a bad business practice. It's certainly something where the people who were just like, I need something right now, I don't care about the quality, the same people who like Captain Sim over PMDG, it gets that market. And then, the people who are very loyal to FS Beam or Flight Beam or any of those other ones, they'll get it when it's the time, and when that has been polished off and looks great. But for those folks who are just like, I need it now, that's what VMworld filled.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see what the motives were behind this as well, and then I think from there we'll be able to make a better judgment as to how to react to what's going on right now.
Yeah, and I do agree with that notion. And to preface to you guys, chat, and to the panel here as well, I am very much so neutral here. I don't think there's a side to be taken on either side. I will stand on a stance that I do agree with a lot of the developers kind of taking a step back and saying we're gonna stay clear of this until this is resolved. Because I think as a business model for companies such as Orbix and Any Builds and Vertical Sim and so on and so forth, that makes sense for them to do, because they wrap their name into this drama that's gonna deface their business model as well, because people are going to start saying, well, you're doing this and that, whatever. So for me personally, just like I do on many different occasions, just presidential election, I stayed neutral until I heard the last spiel, and then I made my decision. So that's what I plan on doing here. I don't discredit VMworld and what they're doing, because I've been a longtime customer of them since I swapped over to Microsoft. I have almost every single one of their products. And we go from here, I guess. It's just unfortunate that this type of controversy is coming out, days before a brand new sim is released. And this should be a time where all the developers kind of coming together and saying, what are we going to do going forward from here to work together so we can make this new sim, and even 2020 for those that are planning to remain on this sim, even better than it is today, right? Yeah. So I do agree with a lot of what EJ is saying. It's a lot of hearsay. It's like, is it a competitive motive? Is Flightbeam just sick and tired of VMworld beating them to the punch and saying, well, hey, they daring it, but we got there first, kind of thing, whatever. It feels like, just a couple of kids trying to build a bigger sandcastle than the other, and kind of thing. So
yep. Yeah, I tell you what, we've had a lot of great stuff in the chat. Mike, EJ well said, and that kind of leads us, Mike, a couple of things you just said, to our next subject here. Let's talk about 2024. Coming up, what makes you want to jump into that? What makes you maybe want to say, I'll tell you right now, I never jump into brand new, first, even second or third month or whatever software. I always wait and let it kind of get bugs worked out and things and whatnot. Plus, I'm kind of an old stick in the mud. I like my 2020. I've got it set up. It works the way I like it to. Getting in and learning something new. So let's talk about 2024. We're just a couple of days away. Mike, I'll go ahead and start with you because, I'm sure you're going to be streaming it. Tell us what you think.
Well, I was very much so in the same boat for a long time. For those of you that know me, I've only been on Microsoft for about a year. The sim has been out for 4. So I switched over from X-Plane 11 back in September of last year. I had been on the sim previously. I had bought Microsoft 2020 about 6 months prior to making the full switch.
Yep.
But I just wasn't happy with the sim. But because I was very much so an X-Plane head. I was Zepo's better than PMG. Oh, Tolus is better than Phoenix. Oh, this, that, the third, right? And I think that's just because the sim was still very much so being developed. But since I've made the switch, this is obviously, in my opinion, the sim of the future. And the fact that Microsoft is coming back and doing 4-year installments again, like they used to do back in the day, I think it's. I think Microsoft is on the right track. And with 2024 coming around, the advancements that they have made, to where we can minimize the amount of frickin' tabs that I have open in Google, because everything's going to be in the sim. Like, for a sim brief is in the sim now. Like, I never thought in a million years that we'd see, I could open up my operational flight plan mid-flight without having to tab out and go to Google. Navigraph charts are implemented into the sim. We're going to have wake turbulence for the first time. So with the 380 being, imagine fucking taking off after a 380, right? In this new sim, I'm excited to see how it handles. I'm excited to see how it flies. I've heard that it flies right there. It's an entirely new flight model that they've built. So I've heard that it flies really well. I'm super, super excited that a majority of our add-ons are going to be able to be compatible with the new sim, with a couple of updates here and there, and maybe a small upgrade fee here and there. But with 2024, I mean, just the amount of sheer development and detail that they're going on with the sim, what the ground looks like, what the satellite imagery. It's an entirely, correct me if I'm wrong, EJ, Mark, but I believe Microsoft 2024 is going to have an entirely new satellite imagery type thing going around, to where it's not. It looks good in 2020. Believe me, it looks really good, but it's going to look even that much better in 2024 because of how enhanced their satellite imagery is going to be. And the handcrafted airports that are going to be coming with the Aviators edition to the simulator. So some of these major airports, we're not even going to have to buy scenery for. It's incredible. I think it's very much so going to be the sim of the future. And I'm excited to see what's coming with it. And he builds into 350, doing long hauls transatlantic in a modern day jet, such as the 350 commercial airliner. The 330, they even have a max. They're going to have a default max. So if you don't want to buy the iFly, you're going to have a default max. It's supposed to be one of their best aircrafts they've ever made. Sobo is saying this, by the way. So I'm interested to see what happens, man. As a content creator, day one, obviously I'm going to have to be for content purposes, but I've always been on the same bandwagon. Like, I'm going to wait a little bit and see the advancement of the sim within the first couple of months and then make my transition. But as a content creator, it's kind of like it kind of forces your hand, if you would. And people could argue that that's not true. Like, I don't have to go to 2024 people to watch me, this, that, the third. But when 2024 releases, I guarantee you every flight simmer's hands are going to be typing MSFS 2024 in the search bar. So as a content creator, it makes sense for us to make that switch early as it is, just to kind of check out the new things, like the airplanes that are coming with the sim and the career mode. We have a full career mode from private pilot to commercial pilot. Missions are coming back. Like, I was a huge fan of the FSX missions back in the day. I don't know if y'all were, but I was. I remember the World Travel Airlines 737 mission where you're cruising over the Indian Ocean, both your engines flame out, and you have to pick a field to land at within a certain amount, and you have to kind of calculate glide distance and so on and so forth. And CRJ landing in Princess Juliana, I kind of think Flight Simulator X is who gave Princess Juliana their reputation with that mission, and it's going to be so much fun. I'm so much looking forward to it.
What's going to be the price? What's going to be the price on the new one coming out?
So I'll go ahead and open up Steam for you guys really quickly, just to give you the exact prices of the different tiers that you are going to be able to buy. So Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 in its base pre-order edition, base model standard edition, is going to be $69.99 US, $69.99 US. If you move up to the deluxe edition, $99.99 is going to be your price, just under $100. If you move up to the premium deluxe edition of the simulator, $129.99. And if you are one of your eggheads simulator guys like I am, Aviator Edition is going to cost you $199.99, $200 for the sim for the Aviator Edition, which is going to give you everything that Microsoft has developed, and then some.
Already paid for
Yeah. I've waited. I'll say the guy I have not pre-ordered. But that is going to be your price range between $70 US and $200 US, dependent on the level of simulator that you purchase. Obviously, if you buy the top tier edition of the simulator, you're getting literally everything that Microsoft has been working on to develop. If you buy the standard edition, there are going to be certain things that you're not going to be able to fly, like probably the 330 and so on and so forth, because those are contracted airplanes that have been developed between partnerships between Microsoft and aircraft development teams.
And one thing to add to that as well, if you have Xbox Game Pass like I do, the base version is free. Or
That's very true. That is
included with Game Pass.
That is a true statement. So if you do have the Xbox Game Pass, you'll be able to fly the standard edition of the sim for free. If you want to upgrade, you will just have to pay the upgrade price to upgrade the version of the simulator.
Yeah. Mark, what about you?
I think the thing I'm looking forward the most with the 2024 will be the optimization. So I run Microsoft on 2 PCs here. And they're both pretty beefy simulators, but I mean, I average about 80 frames when I'm flying, but I think the optimization with the multi-core, because I'm an Intel guy, so multi-core support is what I'm looking for the most. Obviously, the aircraft, I mean, even with 2020, if we didn't get 2024, I think the aircrafts would have came, but the optimization for me, I was one of those pre-order. I'm getting all the planes that they developed. So I pre-ordered day one through the Microsoft store. That's the Aviator package, minus all the little trinkets. I didn't need that stuff. So it's already preloaded on my computer now. So on day, all I have to do is just install the last file, and I'm ready to fly. So
Wow.
Might be calling out of work that day just to get to see them tested out.
EJ, what about you, buddy?
I'm feeling a little sick.
Little COVID,
Yeah, this is going to be exciting, and I'll say Mike has to get it day one because that's who I'm going to be watching to figure out if I get it. Right now, because I have the base Game Pass, I'll be able to get it immediately. I don't think I'll be doing much flying until I watch people like Mike and see how it's going. I stayed away from MSFS, the 2020, for almost 2 years because the adaptation of planes over into MSFS was so slow that no matter how good the graphics looked, the fact that I couldn't fly a 737, I couldn't fly anything in it, absolutely took me out. Now, as I understand, it'll be easier to get from where we are on day one to PMDG and everybody being able to be a part of 2024. And so that to me is key for me to go switch, because I do have a large hard drive space and I could install them dually and just go to 2024. But I'd prefer to do all of my simming on one thing and have all of the scenery and everything loaded into one thing. So I just for the beginning, I might do it just because I want to test and go back and forth. And I have to say that the feature that I'm looking forward to the most is what MSFS has been good at. And that is taking FSX and everything and giving it the best damn details that you've seen in a sim, to the point where people were like, how could we get better than what we had in 2020? And then somebody's like, well, you think that, and here's a side-by-side. You see the two side-by-sides, and you're like, wow, it can get better. I can't believe it. So that's going to be really, really exciting. I have a very souped-up computer, and so I'm also very excited to see if Microsoft continues to be able to do what 2020 did, that FSX and the rest of computer the Sims were not able to do, and take advantage of your technology to the best of its ability and not leave you hanging because it can't support this or that. Now, I was an Intel guy until recently. I switched over because of the price, and also seeing that there was not like that much of a performance difference between my chipset and the Intel chipset, and I'm going to be very curious to see if we continue to perform very similar in 2024. And if that's the case, like this is just going to be like Christmas Day whenever I'm able to just open up and get something like the one of PMDG's planes and have the scenery of 2024 and the performance that I'm getting right now. That's going to be a very, very exciting time. So I work from home, and I will be taking that day off, but still working. But I'll keep marking my thoughts as I'm overdoing that.
Oh yeah.
Say a
So,
prayer for us.
yeah. So
Yeah.
to EJ's point, I was kind of the same way with 2020. I come from FSX P3D, so the trigger point for me to switch fully over to 2020 was when the release of the 737 700.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of still on the spectrum that I'm optimistic of what they're saying here, but I'm still kind of holding back. I'm like EJ said, I'm gonna download it. I'm gonna fly it. I'm gonna get in that A330. I'm gonna do a little sector somewhere. Hopefully, there's a Delta delivery out within 2 hours, so I can fly realistically. But until I'm comfortable where everything is ported over, which is gonna take some time, and then also looking at some of the scenery developers now, like any Ion Bills and how they're tiering their sceneries now for like pretty much porting over. It's not concerning to me, but it is I guess it's a shift in momentum or shift in how you move from one scenery. I mean, not scenery, one simulator to another. Back in P3D, you would go from version 3, version 4, version 5, and developers be like, "Oh, okay, I got an update for my scenery for the new version. Well, I'll give it to you for free." Now, Ion Bills is like, "Hey, we're gonna tier this. We're gonna do something from scratch. We're gonna make you pay for it. We're gonna do an enhanced version. It'll be at a discount, and then or you can just keep what you got and you're gonna port it over and you got what you got." So I think that's a shift in how I guess old simmers like me have been accustomed to seeing port over. So kind of optimistic and excited to see what's gonna happen there.
Yeah. And for those of you that in chat, because I saw a comment about this, about the tiers of what the aircrafts are going to between what edition you purchase in the sim. Yeah. So for those of you that are just planning on buying the standard edition of the sim, these are going to be the new aircrafts that you are going to see within the standard edition of the sim, which is the lowest tier level at $70 US. Okay. New. When I say new, these are the aircrafts that have not been in 2020. Okay. So a lot of the airplanes from 2020 are coming to 2024 as well. So such as the TBM 930, the 208B Grand Caravan, the 747-8. Excuse me, I apologize. A lot of those airplanes that we have currently in the sim are moving back over to the standard edition of Microsoft 2024. The new aircrafts that you are going to be able to fly as a standard edition owner of this sim are going to be most prevalent. I'll say the most prevalent because there are some there that I don't believe anybody's going to. There's a hot air balloon. Like, for God's sake, I'm not flying a hot air balloon. Be cool, but not for me. Pilatus PC-12 NGX is coming to the sim. That is going to be a new aircraft of choice if you are a GA flyer like myself. I love flying GA turboprops, so the PC-12 is definitely going to be a fun aircraft to fly. An Airbus A400M Atlas. That is a military version of the C-130 on Airbus's side that is going to be included in the standard edition. There's going to be an Airbus H125 helicopter if you are a rotary flyer. That is coming base with the standard edition of the sim. The A330-7 Beluga XL will be available with the standard edition, along with the 330-200, 300, and 300 P2F, which is the freighter. An Airbus 321 LR.
Wow. And
then a couple of other products. And again, Jack, I don't know if you know, but the A321 LR is also being developed by AnyBuilds along with the 330. For those of you that are planning on upgrading to the deluxe version, not the premium deluxe, but from standard to deluxe, which is the second highest tier that you can get. I'm sorry, the third highest tier you can get. The newest aircrafts that are going to be coming to the sim are going to be an Albatross G111. I have no idea what that is personally. You're going to be getting a Beechcraft Baron G58, which is a little bit more powerful aircraft of what is currently available. Cessna 404 Titan turboprop, Cessna 408 Sky Courier, Diamond DA40, a Diamond DA20. Cessna 172 Skyhawk, and a 188 Cessna as well, and then a Dornier Sea Star. And then with the Premium Deluxe Edition, guys, this is what everybody's talking about. Premium Deluxe Edition. I'll just name off a few because there are a couple in here that I don't believe a lot of people are going to be paying attention to too much. New aircraft-wise is going to be the Beechcraft C90. The Boeing 747-400 Global Super Tanker, so the firefighter edition of the 747 is coming new with the Premium Deluxe edition of the sim. A Boeing, C-17 is coming to the sim that is being developed for the sim as well. A Pilatus PC-24 private jet is coming to the sim. And I think the most highly anticipated Boeing, I should say, It's going to be the Boeing 747-400 LCE Dreamlifter. So we will have a cargo version of the 747 coming with the premium deluxe edition of the sim. And then if you buy the Aviators edition of the sim, you're getting all of that and then some. So I'm not going to go over the full list. You can look up the full list, guys, online. I can drop the link. Jack, if you mod me in the chat, I can drop the link to this list. And you guys can see it. It's available on the Steam store as well. Also a Saab 340B. Skills just mentioned that the Saab 340. That's going to be another cool turboprop to fly. So if you guys had any questions about it, just look it up on Steam, Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024, and that aircraft list is available to look at within Steam's photos. But personally, if I were to give you a top 5, I think the most highly anticipated are going to be the 330, 2.3, and 3 P2F, the Beluga, 747 Dreamlifter, the 321 LLR, and I think I'd probably stick the Saab 340 in there. I think a lot of people are going to like flying the Saab. It's an old school commuter jet.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to add with this, as well as we're looking at MSFS 2024 and how it's going to be in VATSIM, VATSIM just made a brief statement saying that, we anticipate that it will have functionality. We don't anticipate that it's going to have full functionality. And we really won't know what that looks like until we get there. But I imagine that this will show up in controller data and maybe the altitudes or the airspeeds being incorrectly identified or missing at first. So there may be a time which they have the switch there at VATSIM to be able to restrict the sim that you connect with. And there might be a time at which they just restrict it while they try to figure that stuff out. So don't panic if you get in on day one, you try to log into VATSIM and it doesn't happen. It's likely because there's something crucial that's missing that they need to fix. But the tech team is briefed on it. They're excited to tackle this next challenge. And unlike any other sim we've had before, except for MSFS 2020, they've never had such a big launch. And mind you, FS 2020 into VATSIM took a while because of the whole difference between FSU IPC and SimConnect. Now, they're not expecting that type of delay here, but they are expecting that, there might be some issues, and if we find them, we'll identify them. We might need to take you off for a little bit and then get you back on.
Yep. I remember that with 2020, especially with the altitude and the
altitude.
That was the biggest thing. You could always tell who was flying because that question got asked. Hey,
I remember. I remember. Yeah, it was always, hey, what altitude are you flying? I'm at 370. Well, it's showing you at 375. I was like, oh, what can I do? Chat, just public service announcement from a content creator and as an avid flight simmer last 20 years, please have PATIENCE. Patience. Okay. Allow these developers to make a smooth transition to the new sim. Okay. So over the last couple of months, I've been seeing a lot of negativity from the community going to these developers that are releasing new things for the sim. This is an entirely new platform that Microsoft is coming out with. It's similar, but the SDK has changed. There are a lot of things within the sim that has changed. There's a lot of things developmental wise that these teams have to take into consideration when they are developing these products. So please allow them time to port over their products and stay out of their freaking Discord servers acting like a meme.
Yeah.
For God's sakes. I saw it with iFly. I saw it with Aerosoft, for God's sakes. Aerosoft kind of had that coming to them, but that's besides the point. And I saw it with Fly-by-Wire. So you guys have got to get off these developers' shoulders about this stuff, man. Give them time. If you guys are so concerned about having something in your sim, go make it your damn self and see how well you do. Just saying. So anyway, please give them patience, guys. Give them patience.
Mike, that's so important. We all need to really just kind of relax a little bit and realize what we've got here. And, these people that are doing this and developing it, who knows what they may have literally in their real life. Are they doing this as a business and that's all they do and that's what they eat, dream, sleep, everything else, this sort of thing? We need to really understand that. Guys, you know what? I'm 64. I've said this many times. I started doing flight sim when it was nothing but green, green geographical lines in DOS 6.1. And, we didn't have any of this kind of stuff. It was all keyboard control, this, that, and the other. You guys that are young, you just have absolutely no clue how much development, I've seen in my lifetime. Mike, you're half my age at least, if not younger. And, just everything that we've got here is far more complicated and far more amazing than you really have any idea about. So Mike is so right on when he says, let's have patience. Let's give these guys time. I was getting just a little bit out of shape over Wings telling us, well, this is going to be here on November 18th. Then it's going to be here on the 19th. Then it's going to be here on the 29th. Now they say coming soon. And I'm like, okay, you know what? This technology is amazing that we can sit here and have these flight simulators that look all but real. I mean, good God.
Yeah.
It just blows my mind. Yep.
I saw something in the chat real quick, Jack, and I want you guys' comments on this.
Yeah.
Aurora Forza says, I'm a non-believer in patience. I think rushing devs can actually benefit the workflow of their projects and motivate them to release things quicker. Here's where I will greatly disagree with that notion, because we've seen this in the past. We've seen this with many, many, many projects in the past. Developers, when they start getting flack from the community based off the timeline that is given for a certain product, developers begin to feel pressured into releasing it to the community. And then when they do release it to the community because they've been pressured to release it quicker because people are on their ass about it, guess what happens in their Discord? Well, this doesn't work. Oh, that's not working. Why'd you release it like this? Why'd you do that? Why'd you do this? Why'd you do that? So I'm a humble and firm believer that I will happily wait for something if it's going to be a quality product.
Yeah.
Right? For example, I think the most anticipated, in my personal opinion, I think the most anticipated airplane, even bigger than the 350, 777, so on and so forth, is Bluebird 757 coming to the sim. I think that is the most highly anticipated airplane right now. Okay, because it went from being a small, medium fidelity freeware project to what they have said is supposed to be one of the most advanced airplanes for a simulator to date, when we have the Phoenix, the iFly, so on and so forth. So they have some competition. However, they've been very clear. And I actually spoke with Bluebird at the Flight Sim Expo, Jack. I don't know if I told you, but I met the head of Bluebird at the Flight Sim Expo. Awesome guy. And even at the expo, he stood on that stage and made it very clear. Look, guys, we are a new company and we're trying to get this right. We want to make sure it's so right that if I have to push the development of this aircraft into 2025, I am going to. And he gave 0 Fs about saying that in front of thousands of people.
Good on you.
Right?
Yep.
You know what happened when people said that?
Yep.
They clapped. Because it's like, if you take, okay, we're gonna get a little honest here for a second here, chat and panel. Bear with me.
Let's go.
Okay. You can take a piece of shit and polish it, but guess what? It still is. It's a piece of garbage. It's a piece of shit. So if we take this time to allow these developers to give us what we want, who cares? You got to wait an extra few weeks, month, 2 months, because the community in and of itself has gotten to such a point to where developers say, "Hey, this is in development. Stay tuned." And then you got the freaking warriors just, when do I get my product? When do I get my product? It's like, brother, calm down. If you have actually looked into what it takes, and excuse me, I'm being a little too animated right now. I'll calm down. If you look into actually what the development takes on one of these products, it is incredible how much work goes into it. Because I was one of those guys back in the day. I was like, what's taking so freaking long, dude? Right? And then you actually look into what they're doing with the coding and the lines of coding that they have to work on to make sure one problem in an airplane, such as the iFly, the Bluebird 7.5, Phoenix, so on and so forth, one line of incorrect code can take them days, weeks to pinpoint, find, and fix. I saw that with the iFly development. There was one thing causing an issue with the PFDs to lag. One. That they could not find the issue. They were like, why is this happening? We don't understand. And we are all sitting in the Discord like, hey, we've tested it here. It's working fine here, but in this airport, it's not working very well, so on and so forth. But when it comes down to where we are now, if we give the opportunity for these developers to give us quality products. Well, I have such a respect for Phoenix and indie builds because they say, hey, we're developing it, but it's gonna release when it's ready. So you guys can sit here and type away all you want and do this and do that and talk all you want, but you're not getting it until I believe it's ready. And that's why I'm like, as much as I want that 7.5 in my sim right now, bro, I'd rather them do it right. I'd rather them have it right. So the day I install that aircraft, I am happy with the product. So, and what I've seen over the course of the last few weeks is just there's so many people just saying, why are you guys taking so long? Why is it doing this? Why is it doing that? La da 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 da. And it's just like, bro, calm the hell down. Apply for a job. Help them out, maybe. Go apply with them. If you're a software coder, if you're development, if you're in IT, whatever it might be, go apply for a job. Maybe they need an extra set of hands on this to get it out quicker. But we can't just sit here and rush them and expect them to give us a quality product when we got everybody and their mother in the flight sim community just typing away on their computer saying, oh, this company's BS because they're not giving me something that I want. It's unfortunate. You know, it sucks. So just please, please, please have patience and allow these developers to give us the quality of product that we expect, especially in such of a high fidelity simulator like Microsoft Flight Simulator, especially what is coming with 2024. And I see EJ and Mark laughing and quirking and doing this, that, and there. So I'm gonna let them comment because they might disagree with me and I'd love to hear their opinions on it. And then we'll get to the chat and what they think. So apologies for being a little too animated, but man, it has just been fucking ridiculous the last few weeks in this simulator community with all the things that are releasing. So
hey, Mike,
end of tangent.
I've got to ask one serious question. Okay, one serious question. What do you really think?
Yeah, tell me how you really feel, right?
Mark, go ahead. What you got?
So for me, yeah, patience is a key. Patience is a virtue. In my opinion, these planes are actually coming out quicker than I've ever seen before, especially coming from like a flight in 2002, 2004 perspective. I mean, especially with the shift and the way everything is coded now, developers, I mean, less than 2 years you have a plane, whereas back in the day we were waiting 5-6 years for a 777 or a 74 that was high fidelity or something that we can even actually use in the sim. So I think these times that we got now are actually pretty quick. Yes, you want it now. Everybody wants everything now, but you got to remember this sim was built from ground up. So not only was it built from ground up, developers have to learn again from ground up how to model, code, and do all these great things to these aircraft to make them work. So I guess I'm a patient guy. 757 is probably my favorite aircraft. I'm waiting on that one. That's probably the one I fly the most.
Yeah, preach to the choir, brother.
Yeah,
7576. Those are my go-to aircraft. So when those come out, I'm probably just gonna stop flying everything else for quite some time and focus on those. But yeah, patience is you really have to have patience with these things. And I think with 2024 coming with the sheer amount of aircraft that we have, plus what gets ported over, I think it'll hold you over for at least a year or two.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jack, sorry to interrupt. Can you moderate me in this chat really quickly? I see something that I want to check on.
Mike, I am so sorry. I don't know how to do that.
If you go into the YouTube chat and click my name, it'll say add as moderator. You can just either standard or managing. It's entirely up to you. But I had a fake Aurora Forza account in my YouTube a couple of days ago, and I think this guy that is posing as one of my longtime viewers and Owl's longtime viewers is not the real person. So I want to check on that.
Okay, so let's see. I have Kills My Skills in there as a moderator here. So I'm on that page to add you. How do I do that?
So if you just click my name in the chat and click add as moderator, you can click either standard or managing. It doesn't matter.
Okay, stand by. Let's see. Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was a fake account. So all that piracy talk was on a fake account earlier today. It's incredible the lengths of things people would do to post as somebody on YouTube. Create an entirely new email, a new account, all that stuff, just to take someone's username and picture and go into someone's chat and act as an idiot. So excuse me.
Okay, you're there. Let me know if that works.
Thank you, appreciate it. Skills found it and has banned that person from this chat. It is a fake account. So
okay, good.
The only reason I wanted it is because he was saying some pretty questionable things in the chat, and I wanted to double check because the Aurora Forza that's in my chat on every stream is not that type of guy.
I'll
So
tell you what got you is when he said that the Airsoft A330 was good.
that's
and you're like, "No,
immediately
that's
when
fake."
that's why I was like, okay, let me check on this guy real quick, bro.
I'm glad you taught me how to do that because
Yeah, no worries.
I haven't known how to do that. All right, I'm like I said, I'm old man. I'm still learning all this
Yeah.
crap.
EJ, what do you think,
yeah,
man, of
EJ?
everything that's been going on?
Man, I lost track there for a second. So there's a few things. I think the working within a volunteer community, which is what VATSIM is,
Mhm.
and we do training for these air traffic control positions. And being in the Caribbean, we're a much shorter staff team than that USA, for instance. So one of the things that I was appalled by as I took on this role and I was working with our different teams and their true today lives, and they come back to in the evenings to help students, is the lack of patience students had for getting to the next level, going from a student controller to a S2 controller to an S3 controller to a center controller. It takes time, and on my back end, I have a very serious position about the training that needs to happen and the documentation that our teams need to do in order for us to advance rating. And the students don't see that, but they get so upset with not being able to progress as quickly as they want to or as quickly as they thought they would.
Yeah.
All that to say, I see the same thing take place with the way that people react to developers. And it's helped me to understand that a lot of this is from kids. They're from people who don't understand, either kids or people who just really don't know how to see from the other perspective, how to see all of the work that's being done in order to make sure that we're not just progressing something, but progressing the right thing. However, where I will deviate a little bit here is just that I think communication is a very big game changer. Now, when you look at PMDG, I think the reason that people get so upset with PMDG is they'll say something like coming this fall and
Yeah,
coming
yeah,
next
I agree
summer
with
or
that.
whatever. And then, it sets an expectation. And then when you break that expectation, that's when we have a problem. And the same thing with air traffic control training. We never tell students we'll get to you this date unless we know we'll get to them this date, because when you miss the date, that's when people get really pissed off. So for instance, we look at what Fly-by-Wire did and they said, hey, we're releasing this, but we know this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and this is not working. We're going to get there, and we're just giving you early access. And the same thing that FSS Flight Sim Studio did with the Embraers, they knew the community wanted it. There's a lot of people who I know that fly that plane who are real life pilots of the E170 or the E190 series, and they're so excited to have it, and they fly it regardless of the problems. But they were very clear on what the problems were, and they provide a very clear roadmap as to when they'll be addressed. And when things get delayed, they communicate that. Now you have other developers who just continue to not live up to their commitments.
Right.
And Aerosoft had a bad record of doing that. They did it in Prepared, and they carried that forward into MSFS, which I haven't bought the Airsoft. I've only listened to reviews and seen some of the other folks get their bearings with it to understand that it was not a product I wanted to purchase. But the whole thing there was that Aerosoft kept delaying to say that they're making these enhancements, adjustments, and when the product came out, it wasn't that. So everybody has honest to me, a right to be upset because of the false information that Aerosoft fed them.
Yeah.
But if the community is properly communicating with you, like Fly-by-Wire, like Phoenix, like iFly, like FSS, I will give what's the company that's doing the 757? Is it Bluebird?
Bluebird.
Bluebird. Yeah. And if they communicate like these folks do, I have no problem waiting as long as it takes for them to feel comfortable releasing the plane. Hopefully with an update every now and again. But when PMDG in particular, it is the one that I think about now, who continues to give you a date and then push it back, I think I have a right to be upset, and people have a right
Well,
to be
yeah.
upset. They just it's all about communication.
Right. And let me make sure I, because I know I got a little animated in that last little tangent I went on. Let me make sure I preface my statement. This is just based off of even those that are communicating development-wise, iFly, Phoenix, so on and so forth. There are still those that are just like, bruh. And that's where I'm kind of prefacing this is, well, obviously, I do agree that there are developers out there that are falsely communicating or giving false hopes to the community, and that's what leads to the animosity between simmer and developer. I do understand that wholeheartedly. To give a kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Give a subject matter to my tangent is just across the board, universally in a generalized statement is what I see, no matter the developer, right? And obviously, it's entirely circumstantial based off a developer, right? Like Phoenix and this, that, and third, because even Phoenix got a lot of flack for the lack of development that they did between the IAEs and, or not lack of development, let me refer, the timeline for the IAEs and the sharklets and so on and so forth. But hell, Phoenix is one of those. It's like, hey, we got what, 2 days? Hey, by the way, here you go. Click, go buy it. And it's just like, all right, cool. I'm on my way, right? But that's where my tangent was very much so on a generalized form. So I do believe circumstantially there are certain developers that have made mistakes. I unfortunately fell victim to the Aerosoft 330 purchase because I woke up. I was like, got on my phone and I was like, oh shit, 330's out. Went straight to my computer. I didn't read a damn thing on that page. Clicked add to cart, purchased it, loaded it into the sim, and I was like, what in the world? And then I went back to the Aerosoft website and I was like, oh no, there's no way, right? So it is what it is, you know. I think I do agree wholeheartedly with what AJ's saying, that it is entirely dependent on how communicative the developer is being as well. And I do give all the respect. And if Flight Sim Studios gets a lot of flack for the lack of whatever they've been doing with the E-Jets, but I hear a lot of people say that the product is really good. And I personally haven't purchased it because, you know, I'm just waiting for the further development of the aircraft. Oh gosh, the MickityyyMike trolls are rolling in, Jack, I'll tell you. Lord have mercy. Skills is hard at work, man. Skills is earning his paycheck right now, brother.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Kills.
So I do apologize. I've become a little bit of a troll magnet here on YouTube. I don't know why, hell, but I do wholeheartedly agree with DJ's statement that I did go off on a tangent on the Flight Sim community because I am a community member. I'm not a developer. I don't know development. I couldn't develop a skin tag if I wanted to on this simulator, right? But I think it kind of falls. It's 50-50 on both ends. If developers are being communicative to the community, like majority are, I'd say a vast majority of them are, like Any Builds and PMDG, they are communicative. They just don't follow their roadmap. Phoenix, iFly, so on and so forth. They're all being communicative to the point where they need to be. But I think us as community members need to cut them some slack a little bit and not be so down their throats about when it's coming out. Right. So that's where my tangent came from. I should have prefaced that before I got on my tangent, but you know, I'm an Italian, bro. I start talking, I go off on tangents and I don't shut up. So I'll shut up now.
You sound like a good talk show host. I mean, you know, that's the big deal there. Hey, I have a particular question though, kind of going way back to the original track. But I've got, megabytes and megabytes and megabytes, not quite a terabyte yet, but getting close, of different scenery that I use add-ons for, so that, you know, I tell it what I want it to load up for a particular flight or a particular stream. Do you foresee all of that being interactive with 2024 as it comes out at this point?
I want to say, on a rough basis, yes. Yeah. I think it'll work, but it'll need to be updated to where it's optimized for the specific platform. I don't think add-on. Go ahead.
Did you move from FS9 to FSX in the past, or was?
No. Anytime I've done anything, I've wiped everything, started completely over. I'm kind of like Mike in that regard too, because I was an X-Plane 11 guy forever. years and years doing X-Plane. And
I love that sim.
yeah, it was great. I even
like a bad ex-girlfriend, man. You just look back and you're just like, man, had some good times, but won't go back.
I had a terabyte drive full of ortho scenery that I had made myself. Different areas of the country, different areas I love to fly in, this sort of thing. Really, really enjoyed that. Had written up a full procedure on how to do new ortho scenery. I was that deep into it. But when 2020 came out and I started messing around with it, I'm like, this is far superior, at least in my mind. The flight dynamics were a little bit different. I always heard that X-Plane was supposedly more precise as far as the flight dynamics and the aerodynamics of the airplane and this sort of thing. But, fell in love with 2020 and X-Plane, I had them on 2 separate drives for the longest time.
So did I, Jack.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, when I deleted all my ortho, my E drive went,
yeah, mine too. And, and X-Plane it basically quit working for me. That's why I totally dropped it. But by then, my decision had been made. I was spending all my time in 2020 and hardly any in X-Plane anyway. And then when I went to it a time or two, it quit. And I'm like, I'm done.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm going to make a bold claim here then. And I'm going to say that unless they change something significant in the structure of the way that the files and the folders are laid out from MSFS 2020 to 2024, I will say that 100% of things will go from 2020 to 2024.
Oh, wow.
But there's going to be times when you figure out that something changed. For instance, FS9 to FSX, there was changes in DX from, I think it was DX9 to DX10 or whatever. And so you would get these textures that either wouldn't load or they would load really weirdly. You'd see trees with deformations and things like that in certain sceneries. And I'm betting that you take anything from MSFS and you stick it into FS 2024, it'll work, but it might not be optimized. And it might cause any type of problem from really, really horrible frames to, if you've been in MSFS where you don't have textures show up, it's a little purple, to having that like purple in places where the texture is either not referenced or not in the right place. So I foresee it just being, hopefully, the switch from FS9 to FSX coming back to us again, which is...
That was such a smooth transition, man.
Yeah, it wasn't perfect, but it was way better than going from FSX or P3D to MSFS.
Yeah. Well, that'd be great.
Generalized, I think a majority of stuff will be able to be ported over with minimal issues. If you're talking about third-party stuff, I think the developers are hard at work right now to be sure that their stuff will work upon within a decent time frame of release. I will preface to you guys, chat, do not expect the Phoenix to port over immediately, because Phoenix is a company that did not get access to the SDK prior. So they have not been able to work on porting over the 320, 19, and 21. So the Phoenix might take a little bit of time. I'd assume that Amir and his company and his staff will be working very, very hard to make sure that happens relatively quickly. But for the most part, the majority will be like iFly's team. iFly's team said in the background of the development of the airplane, along a certain roadmap, they're expecting the iFly Max 8 to come to 2024 within about, I'd say, 4 to 6 weeks of 2024's release. If you are a customer of the iFly now, it'll be a free port over. But if you are not a port over, it is going to be an entirely new purchase. So just keep that. Oh, I'm sorry. No, if you are a customer now, it's going to be a small upgrade. If you are not, it's going to be full price.
Let's talk hardware for just a moment. Everybody's got their computers set up. Everything's got, I've got all my gear here, the Bravo throttle quadrant and the Boeing and yada, yada, yada. So how is that going to intermix coming up with the new 24?
If I were a betting man, and EJ can correct me on this, or Mark, whichever, I would say a majority of software development teams, such as Microsoft, creating a sim of this caliber, will make sure that a majority of stuff will work the minute you plug into the sim. I'd assume that there are people on Microsoft team that are making sure all the Thrustmaster products work. There's a team member making sure all the WinWing products work. Now, granted, WinWing, FCU, EFIS panel, stuff like that, that's going to have to be a mobile flight thing. So mobile flight's going to have to work in 2024 in order for these to work. Or unless you're using WinWing's third-party software that I personally don't use, I don't think it's very well optimized. So I'd assume majority are going to work, but to nitpick, I don't think you're going to be able to get it to exactly where you want it immediately. So like editing curves and sensitivity, I think there's going to be a lot of things that Microsoft is going to have to work on within the first couple of weeks of the release. Once they start hearing back from the community of issues that people are having when it comes to flight model, certain things not working, certain peripherals not working, there's no way the Boeing yoke won't work the minute you play. I mean, it's been proven that it's already working because Owlz was using it on the alpha that he was flying.
Yeah.
So it should work. Hardware wise, I think it's just going to be a matter of making sure that hardware developers such as WinWing Thrustmaster send out driver updates to make sure that they're compatible with what software is in Microsoft 2024. But I'm not too versed in that kind of stuff, so I could be speaking out of my ass right now. So if these two right here, which probably are a lot smarter than I am, can comment on it, then I'm cool.
Yeah, Mark, what do you think?
I think all of it will work. I mean, the sim is not. I mean, it's being built from the ground up. But I mean, the coding in terms of peripherals, I think, is already there. WingWing, they might come out with a patch or an update for their stuff. But if you can get MobiFlight or like a SPAD X to work, those typically kind of bridge the gap until such said peripheral manufacturers get their SDKs or their software drives up to work on those sims. But I don't see a big issue. I tested the alpha. I used my Boeing yoke and my honeycomb. I had no issues.
Very good. EJ?
Yeah, I don't expect that we'll have, or anticipate rather, that we'll have any types of problems there. I think most of this actually, if I recall correctly, stems from the OS, and the only ones that don't are the ones that Mike talked about that have like specific software for their products in order to integrate with FS. Those ones, unless they've got early access, will probably need a little bit of time to catch up. But your run-of-the-mill joystick and throttle quadrant should work on day one.
So the last interesting question regarding software and hardware is with 2024 out and everything that's going on with Windows 10 and Windows 11. I'm sure you've probably heard that in some cases, Windows 10 users are more or less being forced to upgrade. Windows 10 support is going to be ending here, in the next year or two. What do you guys think about the interaction of all of that with Microsoft 2024?
I'd imagine it's going to be Windows 11 first and foremost. I think they've already made a case on some of the updates and some of the smoothness and performance updates only being Windows 11 and MSFS. So if you're on Windows 10, I would imagine that it works, but I think you will be missing some of the full functionality that they have provided to Windows 11. I think that's the love-hate relationship you have between the developer of the sim also being the developer of the operating system on your computer. It can integrate really well, but when you have something that's a little bit older, they can very easily just be discarding of that. I'd love to hear your thoughts, guys.
Yeah, Mike.
I'm not happy. I'm not happy. I'm still to this day on Windows 10. I'm not. I despise Windows 11. Yeah. I don't know what it is. I do not know what it is about Windows 11 that I cannot come to terms with. But every operating system that I've been on, whether it be at work, on someone else's computer, the minute I sit down and I see that taskbar on the bottom with all the apps in the middle, I'm just like, or I don't know what it is with Windows 11, man. I think it's just my lack of actually sitting down and learning the differences between 10 and 11. I think 10 is godsend. It is such an easy operating software. It's so simple. It is, but for God's sakes, one time on a computer at work, I could not figure out how to make a new file. It took me an hour to figure out how to create a new folder in a file. I was like, where's the right click new folder? Where is it? Right. And then I find out it's this little button down on the left-hand side. That's just an icon of the folder where it doesn't say create new folder. Now, I also saw that there are changes you can make to Windows 11 to kind of bring it back to the old kind of format. But, I'm not looking forward to it. I'm going to stay on Windows 10, and like I say with the truck that I drive at work, I'm going to drive it till the wheels fall off. If I cannot operate Windows 10 anymore based off of 2024 and the continuation of flight simming, then I will go to Windows 11 if I have to. But right now, every time my computer, go ahead.
That's what I did. The first thing I did when I got Windows 11 was go and turn on like the UI that allows you to incorporate a mesh. Because for the longest while, like seeing the start button not where I expected to see the start button was just like, it made me feel sick.
I know, man. It's just like first time I saw Windows 11, I was like, what the fuck is this? I genuinely thought like I was like a Mac, bro. I was like, I go onto a MacBook Pro, I have no idea how to operate it, right? And then I hop onto Windows 11 and I'm just like, where's my normal stuff?
That's there's a learning curve there. I tell you guys, get all the way back. Let's go all the way back to where you were loading Windows operating system on top of DOS. It took me forever to go to Windows 2000, which was its own deal. You didn't need DOS anymore, but also I had no idea what the hell I was doing. And then what was next? Windows
98 or well, you said
yeah. 90 yeah. XP. I thought XP, okay, it took me 4 years to go to XP. They were nearly done with it when I went to it. And I thought this was great. Same way when it went to Windows 7. You know, it takes me forever to change over. Now, I have changed over to Windows 11 on my new upgraded flight sim computer. And I've managed to learn how to get around a little of that. But my wife has Windows 11 on her laptop upstairs. And that has been nothing but a nightmare to start off with. You know, everything was just crazy with that. So
if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, Windows 10 was phenomenal. Exactly. Bring Windows 10 UI back. Mm-hmm. Bring Windows 10 UI back to Windows 11. I might be a little bit more, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? Encouraged to make the switch. Every time my computer pops up with the update saying, hey, Windows 11 is available, you should update. I'm like, get out of here. No, get out of here. It's just that the UI of Windows 10 is so good. Right. And I worked on a computer in my last job. The computer that we used inside our truck to generate incident reports and stuff like that on calls was still on Windows 7. And when I saw that, I was like, oh, thank you. It's old, but I can work it. Yeah. Right. And then they updated our computers inside of our guard shacks, and it was Windows 11. And I was like, I have no idea what to do. I felt like I just started the job again. I was calling my lieutenant over every 5 seconds. I was like, where the hell is our incident reports? Where's Word? Where's Excel? Yeah. Where is all this stuff? Why is it broken? Why is it broken? And they're like, it's not broken. It's just updated. I was like, why? The shit worked fine before this. Right? No. Windows 10 will stay on my computer until the day looks at me and says Windows 10 no longer supported.
You know, great sideways story here, but I had the same thing today. I've got a transmitter up in Sterling, Colorado. It works. It is great. It doesn't give me problems. They wanted me to take a flash drive and update it. So I downloaded the manufacturer's instructions, right? It's a sidebar issue, but it's relative. Loaded their instructions in the operating software on one of their USBs that I have here. Took it 130 miles to Sterling, put it in, went through the steps. It didn't do a damn thing. It did nothing. I call the manufacturer up and I say, you know, I'm following your instructions to the letter. What's the deal? Oh, well, there are more instructions that we didn't include in that. And
yeah, that sounds about right.
You know, so I got to deal with that next week. But anyway, it's all the same thing. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, Mike. I'm an old engineer. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Oh, I see Mark over here smiling, so I'd love to hear his opinion on this.
Go ahead, Mark.
I had no choice but to learn Windows 11. The government, when they switched, that was it. There wasn't no going back. Yeah. You couldn't change the settings. You couldn't do anything. So new PCs on 11, old PCs on 10. So it's a mess for me, especially when I ported everything over. I used OneDrive, and then I immediately turned that crap off. So when you do switch to 11, turn OneDrive off.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I've
it's
done
good
that.
for bringing everything over. Once you get everything over and set up, turn it off.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. EJ, you're smiling awfully big. What do you think?
It's every single computer in my house. I've got 5 different computers. Don't ask why. All of them except for one have Windows 11 on it at this point, and it is one of my work computers. And every time I fire it up, it now feels ancient. Because the interface is so different from Windows 11, and it's like, oh god, I have to deal with this old piece of crap again. It was great, and Windows 11 is pretty bad out the gate. But because I've adjusted it, made it my own thing, and brought it very close, I'm pretty sure it was this operating system where I right-clicked on the taskbar and Task Manager wasn't there, and I was like, how do you get Task Manager? Control-Alt-Delete? Are you kidding me? That's the only way to bring it up? And Windows 11 brought it back because it upset that many people.
Yeah.
So, it's a thing that's going to happen eventually. To each their own on how quickly they are to adopt it. It used to be the thing that I would never do, because when you went from like 7 to, or was it Vista to 7, and like the amount of things that screwed up in the sim when you did that were just absolutely immense, and you really didn't know which OS to be on to get your sim to work right. Now it seems pretty streamlined that Microsoft will do the best to MSFS and to Microsoft's own operating system. So, I don't have the issues that I used to have with it, upgrading that I used to have. But we'll see what happens when Windows 12 comes out. I might be camp. I'm staying Windows 11.
Yeah.
When did Windows 12 get announced?
It didn't. But
oh my gosh, you just gave me a heart attack,
No,
man.
they're thinking about it. No, it is in the works somewhere back there.
Man,
Look,
I see something in chat.
People are with technology though. Like the second something, I have an Android phone, and I just today updated to Android 15, and I'm listening to the Google podcast today as I'm getting the Android 15 downloaded, and the podcast is Android 16 is expected at this date. I'm like, I don't even know what 15 is yet.
That's the same with iPhone, man. It's like, I just got my iPhone 15, and then I was like, bro, let me fucking enjoy the 15 first before 16 comes out, man. Like, Lord, I see something in chat too. Chelmo, my man, he says, bro, first Sam's Club gas, now Windows 11. He's saying, because I had an argument with Chelmo the other day about Sam's Club gas. I was like, hey, it's cheap, but there's a reason it's cheap. I don't put that shit in my car.
Yeah.
No. Sorry. And he's like, but it's cheap. It's $2.70 a gallon. I was like, yeah, well, you call me when your head gasket blows, man.
Yeah, for sure. Well, guys, we're coming up on 2 hours. This has been fun. It's been informative. You guys are just the best. This community is incredible. EJ, Mark, and MickityyyMike. Owls couldn't make it. He threatened to earlier, but he must still be streaming or whatever the case may be. So
he's taking 45 minutes to do replays.
Oh, is that what? Yeah. There you go. Well, Mark, let's come to you. And what's going on in your world? What do you got coming up? You're going to be streaming. What's happening?
Work is in my realm right now. Streams. What I'm trying to get to is at least 2 streams over the weekend, maybe a Friday, Saturday, or Saturday, Sunday. So trying to boost up my streams, getting my channel started. I think I'm like toppling in over 100 subscribers. Yay!
Hey, right on.
Working on increasing my streams here on my side. Just started a new position within the military, so trying to get adjusted to that. And,
hey, by the way, we just had Veterans Day. Thank you for your service, man. Appreciate it. Absolutely. Yep.
Yep. That's all that's going on in my world right now. Kind of coming off the highs of WorldFlight and anticipating 2024.
Very good. Very good. Well, thanks for being here tonight, man. It's great to see you. Thanks again for all your hard work at WorldFlight, and hopefully we'll see you in another one here pretty soon.
Oh, absolutely. I'm glad to be here. Anytime you want me on, I'll be here.
Always welcome. Always welcome. EJ, can't thank you enough. It's great to see you. Give us that little rundown that you you just had a world tour. What you just got back from a good trip. Tell us a little bit about that real quick, of what you got coming up with VATSIM.
Yeah, sure. It's always great to get away from home for a little bit, and the main purpose of that trip was actually to go to Oktoberfest in Munich for the first time. But as
Oh,
the trip
nice.
was progressing, yeah, and that was something you got to do if you haven't. It certainly was the fun environment, but also like a very Munich-based, Munich-centric experience. And my first taste of Germany. I've been learning German for a while, so that was very fun to be able to interact with people in German. But the flight pathing, over time, I just kind of got the idea of, let me try to fly as many planes as I can. And so I got the opportunity to fly the American Airlines 777 200 on the way to London, and then from London I got on a British Airways A320, and then I went from Munich back to London in a A319, then from London to Abu Dhabi in my first ever A380,
Oh,
which was
nice.
such a cool experience. Yeah, I flew from Abu Dhabi to Oman in a A320 of Etihad, and then I flew from there to London in a 787 Oman Air, and then from London I flew to Miami in a 777-300. So I got to fly all of these really, really cool aircraft. It was my very, very big pleasure of mine to finally fly an A380. I was a little bit disappointed because I kind of felt it was overhyped. I heard it would be really different. It is cool to have a shower on a plane. It is cool to have a bar that you can go up to. But I think the thing that's the most surprising is just the sheer size of that plane.
Yeah.
It is. I tried to walk all the way down. I was in business class, so you're on the top level. And I tried to walk from the front to the back, and that in itself was a walk. They wouldn't let me actually walk downstairs because they didn't know what I was doing. But that is such a huge aircraft. Just absolutely blows my mind. In terms of VATSIM stuff, guys, there's so many cool things that are happening in MSFS, and it's going to trickle into VATSIM. Already kind of spoke about what's going to happen with 2024. We've got a lot of cool events that are happening. Just two big reminders that I can tell you from the team. Please remember, CTAF is a thing in all of North America now. So from Canada, the United States, the Caribbean islands,
right on,
to Mexico, use CTAF.
Yeah.
And I'll say that the other big thing is on the A380 end of stuff. We love to see them. If you're flying a flight and you see somebody else who's operating a flight that doesn't look like it should operate, unless it's affecting you, don't report it. I cannot stress this enough. We're getting a lot of them as supervisors right now, and it is not necessary.
Yeah.
If a controller has an issue with it, he'll let us know. If it's interrupting operations at an airport, somebody will let us know. But if you just happen to be on VATSPY or whatever and you see something like it, please don't do that.
Yeah.
It only looks bad on you. But we're really excited to have the A380 out there. We're really excited to have these other planes join us on VATSIM very soon. The A350 is definitely what I'm looking forward to next.
Man, I can't wait.
Yeah. So
I can't wait.
Come join us on VATSIM. Come have a good time with us. And get familiarized with these planes, because come FS 2024, we're going to have a great time.
Right.
And public service announcement, ladies and gentlemen, reference to VATSIM. Stop meowing on frequency, man.
Yeah.
Oh, well, EJ, Mark, thanks. Mike, I'm going to go ahead and say my piece here, and then I'll let you wrap it up as always. We're going to try to do these, guys. We always threaten to do these a lot more often. They're always so much fun and so informative, but we'll continue to work at it, and we'll try to keep you up to date on the latest stuff going on. I want to thank Major Mark for being here tonight. EJ Davis, of course, my good buddy and cohort in crime, MickityyyMike. Guys, excellent people in the VATSIM community, and we're all here to have fun and serve you and serve each other. Want to thank all of you in chat. We've had a really good chat going. Really appreciate all the comments in there. even some of the comments that were a little off, I think we got those taken care of. Yeah, and y'all taught me how to add a moderator here on the YouTube thing, so that's good. I'm going to be doing some ops in the ATR. I just want to learn how to fly this airplane. I'm going to do it in my streams. We're going to see some of the beauty of Colorado and maybe some other areas. I've got a couple of things planned in that. And
I have a great tutorial on YouTube that I use to learn the ATR. Jack,
oh, right on. Yeah. Send me a link to that. I'll be glad to take a look at that.
It's a playlist. There's, I think, like 5 or 6 episodes. As Ruby pops up in the background. Hello, Ruby.
Hey, Ruby. Yeah, right through the new thing there.
Yeah, it's like 5 or 6 episodes worth, but he goes from cold and dark all the way to shutdown.
That'll be helpful. So from my flight deck anyway, thanks for being here. Thanks for being on the channel. Thanks for the likes. If you haven't hit that like button yet, sure would appreciate it. And those of you who may be watching on the replay, we hope you enjoyed it. Those of you here live, we'll look for you again sometime. And with that, I'll throw it over to Mike. Mike will let you close us out. And everybody, God bless you. And Captain Jack loves your show. Go ahead, Mike.
All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, do appreciate you guys tuning in with us tonight on what is seeming to be, I think, maybe the 5th or 6th installment of this podcast. Want to apologize in advance for the lack of podcasts that have come out over the recent weeks. Everybody's life has happened. Everybody's just been busy. So we're hopefully going to get back to doing this, hopefully 2 or 3 times a month, I'd assume. If we can get it to be a weekly thing, that's, I think, ultimately the goal is to do once a week, Fridays or Saturdays, something like that. Just sit and talk and BS with each other like we always do. Ignore my tangents. That's just me. That's my personality. Welcome to MickityyyMike. Welcome. If you haven't seen me before, go subscribe. Anyway, appreciate you guys all tuning in and hanging out with us and having this discussion with us as we talked everything flight sim. That is what the Virtual Flight Deck is all about, a flight simulation podcast where we talk about the flight simulator in and of itself and everything that's coming up and things that we're not happy about, things we're really happy about. But thanks to Major Mark and EJ per the usual. EJ, thank you guys for that. Some Caribbean Division for partnering with my channel. Let me know when you guys are doing events and all that kind of stuff. We will be hopefully participating in the Cross the Land. I won't oversleep this time, I promise. So yeah. But make sure you guys stay tuned. Make sure you drop a subscription with Captain Jack Flight Sim over here to catch these installments and actually watch his streams as well. He's very, very, very awesome flight sim content creator. It's just a good time when you hang out with Jack, man. Drop a like down below as it is completely free to do so. It helps out the channels tremendously as it pushes this content through the rest of the YouTube world and out to the flight sim content creators and other people that enjoy aviation just as much as I do. I don't know about y'all, but jet fuel runs in my blood. Hope it runs in your guys' blood too. I am so jealous that you just flew 5 or 6 different legs on entirely different airplanes throughout the European sector. That's a goal of mine. But do appreciate you. Yoham, Skills, thank you so much for being a phenomenal moderator today with all the crap that's been coming into this chat. Sorry, Jack, that's the MickityyyMike special, apparently. Dash Talents, Chelmo, Cat D, hope you guys are all having fantastic days. Hope you guys enjoyed the podcast. And we will see you guys in the next one. Hopefully we do another one next week, Jack. Hopefully. We'll see. We have to do it next week with 2024 coming out.
Let's give it a shot. Absolutely.
Yeah, we have to. Alrighty, guys. Well, we do appreciate y'all, and we will see you guys in the next one from the Virtual Flight Deck, y'all. We will see you.